All right. So welcome back to the Stupid podcast. I'm less sick, so I'm able to actually start working again. My voice might sound funny, but it is what it is.
Did you miss it?
I did. Well, I couldn't work. Like my brain was just gone for 2 weeks. So
it was
I don't like not doing anything. So that was no training, no working. I did not like it.
Yeah.
I'm better. So back at it. So first question.
First question.
You have some, or otherwise I have some.
You had one that you wanted to address first, right?
Right. So, well, I mean, yeah, we have so many to answer now. I made a post about, I call it Keep It Simple on the Mighty Networks, right? It was about how to plan your session. So very simple stuff. Like, let me explain. So first movement, like usually I like to do an opener. It's as much activation as it is working on mobility, stuff like that for whatever joint I'm going to work. So pressing will be more towards shoulders, bicep, like bicep opener. If it's legs, that either will do, if I do deadlift day, I'll do maybe some one arm barbell rows as an opener, or maybe I'll do some Jefferson squats, things like this. Then I have my main movement, the squat, the deadlift, whatever it is. After that, we can talk conjugate versus linear, but you get the idea. You have the main movement, then you have the main assistance work. So what I like to do is I like to do a main movement for strength, and then from there I like to do carries, either one exercise of carry or two. Why? Because I recover fast and well from them, so I can put them early and just blast them. If I were, that's something I would not recover from well, I might put them lower on the set of exercise, so I don't just overload my system too much, right? So I do usually main movement, then carry, and then the first assistance work, which is something called a supplemental exercise, like that David Tate from Elite FTS talks about all the time. That exercise is going to make you better at your main lift. So, for example, for me, it would be that pause squats, because it helps me squat better. That's what I need. That might not be what you need, but that's what I need. So I need to do, for example, you need to do pause squats at the bottom, just to learn depth right now and get the glutes engaged at the bottom and all that stuff. Me, it's out of the hole. When I switch from internal torque to external torque, that's what I need to work on. So a good supplemental exercise is that pause squat that I do out of the bottom, 1, 2, up. I could do Anderson squats. There are different ways to do this. Main movement, 1 to 3 reps, supplemental 3 to 5. And then we get into the assistance work. Right, so that's where...
So just to grasp the concept, what was the exact question of the guy?
Assistance work.
Just right. Assistance work, question mark.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, how do you handle assistance work? Okay. Which is a very valid question. Right.
How do you put it? Do you
do
single
the main
day
exercise and the supplemental exercise will depend a little bit on what your thing is. If it's Olympic weightlifting, it's not powerlifting, right? The main exercise is going to be different, the supplemental is going to be different. When it comes to assistance work, honestly, we can all get on board on about the same thing. The difference between main and supplemental and assistance work, to me, is the same difference between sprinting and a 5K run. When you sprint, you have to pay attention to the technique, just 100%. 5K run, you get a little bit more of a leeway on technique. Technique is always very important during your 5K run, but it doesn't matter as much as you're in sprinting, right? So sorry.
So that would be your...
So main and supplemental is your sprint work, where you have to pay really attention to technique, and you cannot run sloppy in sprint ever, which means whenever you run, every step has to be focused and addressing whatever problem you have. Make sure your arms are doing this. You know, like you're super precise. That's a sprint. Supplemental, same thing, right? And then you get to assistance work, and assistance work is more like a 5K in the sense of what matters is really developing muscles, right? So first of all, which muscles? Like 90% of people, or at least anybody's 90% of their problem, is teres major, glutes, hammies, triceps. If you hit those ones, honestly, you hit most people's weaknesses, or most weaknesses of people.
Yeah.
I mean, so you really need to get those. So how do you go at those? So teres major, do your pull-ups, do your row pulls. Right, but the idea of the assistance work here, most of the time, is do you need muscle quality, activation? Do you need muscle quantity? Is that muscle just not been developed either before, or like lags behind other
so
body parts.
So it's basically muscle activation skill, that's the main movement.
Versus,
and then
right, so you could use assistance work toward muscle activation. That can be done. It's kind of that gray area between the supplemental and then the first assistance work. Like if your supplemental like is really struggling, let's say like I do my power squats and that's borderline too much for me to get the hips, I might need another exercise that is in between that hits like external torque on my left hip. So maybe another sets of Jefferson that I use for the opener could put a little bit more weight there. I could use an exercise that hits my glute med a bit more. Let's say a sandbag squat where I try to stay very upright, very wide and hitting the glute med. That will help my external torque toward my left hip. So that would be in between a supplemental and an assistance work, right? That would be muscle quality. I would make sure that the right muscles are firing at the right time. Now, maybe I just don't have glute med and I just need to build the muscle, just like, you know, volume wise. Then I would go more toward a bodybuilding type of idea where it's not so much that session, that exercise that counts as much as the volume overall over time. So that's why it's more like a 5K.
Yeah.
Right? Is if you like, let's say triceps, right? They just don't develop. All right. So two approach to that. You could do. I like to do like push-ups with weight on my back. Weighted dips, close grip with bands, for example. Those like just activate my triceps more.
That reversed.
That doesn't work nearly as well. That's more bodybuilding.
That reversed bench that we did.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to depend on people. The one I like for pure activation of the tricep, where they have, you know, like sometimes you feel your muscles are a bit lazy. They don't want to.
But then that reverse bench, that would be more like a sub.
Right, so there's two different ones, right? Muscle quality is when your muscle is more on the lazy side.
Yeah.
Muscle quantity is just not big enough. You just need mass. And sometimes you're required to just have bigger muscle on the bench, for example, or stuff like that. So if I want quality, I'm going to go toward like a push-up with weights, like a weighted dips, like the bands, like on the close grip. Because for me, it makes my tricep just fire extremely like deep inside the muscle. I can feel it. Like that's a good exercise for my tricep. Might not be yours. Those are mine. But for example, if I want just bigger triceps, I don't necessarily need to hit those exercises that are heavy and stuff like that. Like sometimes what I need is just bodybuilding work. Tricep extension, you know, bilateral, unilateral tricep extension, maybe some skull crusher, maybe some reverse bench or whatever. And then I won't push necessarily each set to the limit. I'll just do more volume based, more sets. And then understanding that whatever exercises you choose for muscle quantity, powerlifting, bodybuilding style, don't matter as much as just putting the volume of work over time.
Yeah.
Like you just need 20 sessions. Yeah, I mean,
and consistency of it, right?
Right, consistency of it. So should you change the exercises? Yeah. If you don't like to do the same thing all the time like me, you can change, but the idea will be the same. If I do tricep extension, do I do it, you know, like pronated or supinated? Do I do it one arm? At the end, it's a tricep extension. You know what I mean? Like it's a press down. There are different ways of doing it, and then it will hit the tricep a little bit differently, but at the end, it's the variation of a tricep press down. Find the one that hits what you need to hit and that works for you, and just repeat. But when it comes to assistance work, then for me, there's two things. There's muscle quality versus muscle quantity. And most likely you need a bit of both, right? But if you look, it's going to be those two. So how do I address quality versus quantity? Whenever we hit a muscle, we have to think internal torque versus external torque. So external torque will be far more explosive. So will be toward muscle quality. Internal torque will be more like time under tension, eccentric and everything, so it'll be more muscle quantity. So that's how I'm going to split my assistance work, is which muscle group do I need to hit first of all? To most of you, glute hammies, triceps, teres major. Then now we're talking muscle quality versus muscle quantity, external torque versus internal torque. Right, so teres major, for example, that one is an internal torque muscle. So we're going to do our gymnastics, like levers, pull-ups, stuff like that. If you don't do enough pull-ups, do more. And rope pulls, because rope pull is an internal torque, and then it works your grip, your biceps, your pecs anyway. Just do rope pulls. Do your gymnastics, do your rope pulls, teres major will get engaged. Then we get the triceps. Muscle quality, external torque, Again, like push-up with weight for me, dips with weight, close grip with bends is my favorite, but there's, right, you know what I mean? Like just be explosive, sorry, using your triceps. If we go internal torque, that's more going to be the bodybuilding stuff. You know, so like cyclical work toward the inside head of the tricep. There's many bodybuilding exercises. But again, like this is muscle quantity, so don't stress too much about which exercise to choose. Make sure you feel the muscle connecting and you get a good pump. Do that 20 times, right, on the triceps, and honestly, that's where the progress will come. But see, the difference is like, for example, if I start to look at main movement supplemental, that's a short block. It's like 3-4 weeks. Whereas the muscle quantity, we're talking like 10 weeks. So when I look at assistance work, it's not going to be the same look as I do for the main movement. Main movement, I might rotate more often, and then down the line, as I go on the assistance work, the last 2 exercises just to get a pump on the triceps.
Yeah.
It's not who cares, because it matters obviously, but by then you're tired, just get a pump.
Do you think then that assistant work is not used as often as it should be used, or maybe underestimated? Or is it just me because I have never really done any assistant work?
That's a very good question. So the key on this, and that we're going to do a main podcast about that, is that exploitation versus exploration arch. Someone who's more toward exploitation, they want to do the main lifts, they want to lift heavier, they want a PR every session, they want to max out, stuff like that. Right. Those people have a tendency to forego assistance work. You know what? Because that's where the exploration, finding the muscle, feeling the muscle, it's not explosive, it's not shiny, it's not like, pow! You don't get to go at it mentally like crazy. You just do the work of, you know, stretching, flexing, feel muscle, get a pump. It's very much an internal torque type of work, time under tension, where you just explore in a sense of you stay connected to the muscle and you get a pump. There's no objective-based mentality toward that. So someone who's more on the exploitation will have a hard time in exploration. That being said, if you spend too much time in exploration, always feeling your muscle and squeezing and everything, you're never going to get strong. You're never going to get bigger, because you're just not really pushing the machine. You're just finding out what works, which is always necessary, but you can't just go too far one way. So what you see is people that either don't do assistance work or do it like shit. It's at the end, they're tired, 2 sets, they go like this and they're not paying attention, or that's all they do. But let's be honest, you're not going to get strong with assistance work.
And then as Julian say, it should be an arch.
It is an arch. So like, for example, the yoke carries, they'll make you strong, but you can't just do that because they won't develop your hammies and your glutes enough, for example, but they're great for your upper back, but they're still more involved when it comes to the squat. And where is it that you fell on the squat anyway? So as usual, it depends, right? But if we look at just assistance work as a whole, it's an exploration phase. Let me put it this way. You start with the most important, main movement, right? Then you do carries. Then you do your first supplemental exercise. And then after that, as we go down, they matter less and less and less. Right, so like you try to find that one exercise for the supplemental, like for example, external torque, I have the sandbag squats. Everything that I do after that is just to get a pump. Who gives a shit? It's not who gives a shit, but like they matter less and less as you go down. You're tired anyway.
Your overall message is basically start like doing this stuff more.
Right, so the thing is, if you have a tendency to focus on 1, 2, 3 only, you will, you'll get stronger at first and everything, but you're gonna hit a glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're going to realize that if you want a bigger bench or to lock out, like have a better jerk overhead, you're going to need stronger triceps. Right. Do they come naturally to you as you do either the bench or the clean and jerk? Maybe they do. If they do, good. You don't have to do extra work. Always good. To most of us, at some point, the triceps are going to become a problem. So that's where the assistance work comes in. If you lack the muscle quantity, all right, bodybuilding it is. So I'm not saying it's going to be the most exciting thing in the world, but I'm saying at the end of the session, you will have to finish with triceps. Yeah. Maybe not 4 times a week, but at least twice a week, you're going to have to put in the work. And you're going to have to learn to explore, which means stretch, contract, get the pump, get things going.
Yeah. So be more balanced in your training session.
It's an arch.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why is the assistance work required. It depends on you, as usual. It depends, right? Yeah. Yes, like, are you wasting your time doing hammies, glutes, teres major, and triceps? Never. That'd be my advice. Always do those. No matter what, do those. You'll cover so much ground doing that.
So, other question, looking for more sport like, for example, track or maybe soccer or stuff like that, do you think that's what it lacks to be, for example, less injured more often, that they just need some type of structure-based assistant work?
Right, so they need, the problem with more
I've never
sports,
heard of it in track. More strength training, but strength training for us was just cleans,
right,
which is very
exactly.
technical too.
Right, which is, but the key with those sports is they just spend so much of their volume of training on being specific, on being specialized, that they forget that the body doesn't care that you play soccer, that you run sprints or whatever. The body wants balance first. He doesn't care that there's a competition going. He just works, the body works a certain way. So when it comes to highly specialized sports like the sprinting, soccer, or things like this, you have to take an athlete and go, okay, so just by doing soccer, or just by doing sprints, what is it that I'm lacking? Like for you, sprints was enough to develop your legs and all that stuff. All right, upper body was not the case. I mean, that's fairly obvious, but you're like, all right, so, but you had a lot of traps, but no teres major. All right, well, let's do teres major then. And then let's see if we can balance you out. Like, when does it become too much of an imbalance? That's the question, right? So if you're into a highly specialized sports, that you want to spend the least amount of time possible on assistance work, because it just takes time away and energy away from your main stuff. But spending no time on it will mean injury, will set you back. So how much do I need to do in order to not get injured? I think the 80-20 rule is great there. You get 80% of the results for 20% of the work when it comes to assistance work, stuff like that. Know where that limit is and stop there, which means like you just have to get decent, if you want hammies and glutes, get decent at sandbag squats, right? Get decent at pull-ups, get decent at push-ups, and your body will find its groove within that. And the more specialized you are, the closer to a competition, the more you can start downplaying the assistance work. But honestly, the 80-20 rule to me is what matters. Is you don't have to spend that much energy into that kind of stuff.
It will be interesting to do it in the build-up.
Right, like, but it also doesn't mean you should not do any.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
And this is the problem of all this, is always that.
Don't start assistant work in the middle of your race season.
Don't do that either, right. So, but
take your time
at the same time, are you breaking?
Yeah.
Like if you're halfway through your race season and you're breaking, then we need to stop the race season and start rebuilding your hammies.
Yeah.
Right, and I can't start building your hammies in your race season, but even if you're starting to be so imbalanced, I might have to go, for example, like, could I make you do deadlift to build your hammies if you're starting to have imbalances? Well, if the imbalances are too big, I can't use a deadlift. I'm going to have to use a supplemental exercise because you're just not ready. Maybe a unilateral stuff, even,
Yeah, but you always, the thing is that it's not beneficial to do deadlift because there's so much skill involved in a sport. You don't necessarily want to spend more time on
You don't necessarily need to deadlift. Yeah. So oh yeah, but there's also the 80-20 rule works the other way.
Yeah.
Is at some point when you specialize, it's 80% of the effort for 20% of the results. That's the problem. So I would keep that 80-20, like 80% of effort for 20% of results for the stuff you want to be really good at. Maybe you want to compete in Olympic weightlifting or in powerlifting or in sprinting or whatever. The other stuff, try to get 80% of the results for 20% of the effort, which is the conjugate system is great for that. Try to, if you're good at a certain form of tricep exercise, try another one, like just get a pump, just get moving. The key with all this is understand what is the point of what you do. For the main exercise, it's a sprint. You have to pay extremely close attention to every rep. Every rep has to be the same, has to be as good as you can make it. Address the issue every time on every rep. Like, you know, like that focus is going to be great. Once you get to assistance work, is it required? Yes. Do you need to go completely ballistic over it? No. No, you don't. It's not necessarily. Just understand what is it that you're trying to get. Again, like muscle quality versus quantity, internal torque versus external torque. And after that, treat it as a 5K. Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it often and over time, and then the results will come. But you don't have to go as into it as you will for a main movement or an assistance work, supplemental exercise.
Do you think there is a certain mental profit you get out of assistant work too?
I think personally yes, because I think getting a nice pump at the end of the session allows you to leave the session on an easy win. Like, you know, you leave a session always hurting, like pounded to shit with like your carries and stuff, like it accumulates because you're like, oh my God, it takes, like, when do I ever win? You know, like you feel beat up every session. You finish with a nice session where you feel your triceps or your hammies or stuff like that. First, it's a nice win. And second of all, it also allows you to live staying connected to your muscles, which is very important. Because if you pound yourself every single time, and you will disconnect eventually, because how could it be any different, right? And every session is that fucking war without ever getting a candy from it. It's going to be a bit rough. I see assistance work as a candy. I get connected to the muscle, I get a nice pump. All right, and for me, it's a very good also active rest, which means some days if I'm really beat up, I go to the global gym, and then I'll do just flies for chest, and then sides for shoulders, and then some biceps, some tricep, connect the stuff, because me, I always have a problem with my biceps. Stuff like that, and I feel and I have a pump, but I didn't violate myself mentally through a hardcore training session. I just got a pump, reconnected, it's good active rest, I felt accomplished of doing something, I'm good.
Do you think then it's beneficial to end the session with an internal torque
I think so.
pump?
Right, so that'd be more muscle quantity. I like to finish. So again, this is the end of the session. You might be tired.
Going from end
right, but remember, you might be tired. Yeah, right, you've done your main move, all the stuff. You might be wasted. Is it worth spending 2-3 sets on tricep extension to get a nice pump? I believe so. You might not feel like it at that moment in the session, but is it beneficial? As much on your nervous system that on your mind, on like the carrot versus the stick type of thing, I believe so. So I think we should all finish sessions with either the hammies, the glutes, the teres major, or the triceps pumped. Okay. If you do that, it's good for you, and honestly, it will yield results. Not in the next 3 weeks, but over 20, 30, 40 sessions, just like a 5K, like you build that up. Like your bench will go up if you get stronger and bigger triceps. Like I can guarantee you that. So will your clean and jerk.
Yeah, what I noticed mostly, like mentally on the assistant work, is that it's like, no, just do the work. Like, just stop being so all over the place. Stop being so.
Right, but don't treat it like it's a main squat either.
No, but like to do like high reps. That for me is a new thing. So like the high reps for me, running a 5K is like, okay, just do the work. It's nothing shiny. Just do it. It's
right. Making sure you can also recover from it. That's the problem. Is remember, it's down in the session. So make sure you don't also grind yourself too much on the assistance work, because you still have to recover from it. So to me, that's how you should choose the exercises that you're going to use for whatever it is that you do. Is use the one you could recover from. There's some of them where you go like, I can do this all day.
What do you think you can't recover from, and what is something that you get more energy out of?
It depends on the people. Like for me, I can do strongman. I can always, I recover, gives me more energy, like drags, row pulls, overhead carries, any type of carry I recover from, it gives me more energy, and I feel better the next day. You want to grind me down, it's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Like that, just like, it crushes me like that, 12 reps, and then you fight the last 2 for 4 sets on like dumbbell presses and shit like that. That fatigues me fast. I don't think my body understands what is it that I'm asking.
Yeah.
For me, it's that. Well, a carry, I get it.
There's just a finish line.
Bodybuilding, I don't. Yeah, there's no finish line in bodybuilding. I don't get it. I don't. It's not something my body fully understands. So, and it's not the way for me to. If I want to get bigger, carries work way better. Anyway, like my body does not respond to bodybuilding that well, but I find it very taxing. So since I've done the Q-1, it's a lot better, but I still have to be careful. This is not where most of my energy should go. So there's the problem is I can do a high volume of strongman, but a low volume of bodybuilding. Like, so that much strongman will tax me as much as that much bodybuilding.
How did you realize that you didn't recover from bodybuilding?
Trying, doing it.
So what was the main feeling that you were like, I'm not recovering from this?
Like 3 weeks in, and then I'm shot, destroyed, don't want to train anymore, tired all the time, in freeze.
Yeah.
Mostly in freeze. I could
just
tell
so
I was in
freeze. People can recognize whenever something.
Yeah, because I tried that too. I was like, well, let me get stronger on assistance work, and my lift will go up. Yeah, the problem is 3 weeks in, I can't do the main lifts because all my mental energy was gone focusing on the assistance work. That's very easy to do. Like again, I can do that much strongman for that much bodybuilding. But that means that that's what my programming should reflect. That much strongman from that much bodybuilding. Because if I do more bodybuilding, it just takes away from everything else. And that's not the point.
Yeah.
So I just can recover from certain things and not others. That's going to be highly, highly personal to...
So just pay attention, especially learn. 3 weeks into trying something new. How do I feel?
At the end, that's what it's going to come down to, is it's you. It
if
depends on you.
If you're extremely tired and freeze, you're going to like, maybe this is not working.
Look at the
for
freeze thing. Like you'll know you don't recover something when you're in freeze. So it might be because the activity is beating the shit out of you, or that you just don't get it. Like you're not capable of putting your soul into it because there's something in your system that just does not recognize what is it you're doing. It's like me with the bodybuilding. It's just... But that's maybe because I don't have the genetics to grow continuously from it. Whatever it is, it's just I don't get it. Strongman, I get it. Powerlifting, I understand. Medium. Strongman all day, conditioning somewhat, not really. Bodybuilding, it's just like my body doesn't get it.
Yeah.
I have fun with it for 3-4 weeks, get a pump, but then I forget. Like it's just not interesting to my body. So that doesn't mean I shouldn't do any. So then you start choosing again: triceps, hammies, glutes, teres major. If you do that, you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine.
Let me just check how long we're in. We're 26 minutes in.
Yep. So anyway, the camera is the camera is gonna shut off anyway. So that'll be a good first long stupid podcast.
He's back and he has a lot to tell you guys.
Exactly. See you guys. See you everybody.